Okay, Allison, if you're ready, we can go ahead and get started, and then yeah, we'll just hopefully have a few more folks trickle in. But thank you so much to those who are joining us, quality over quantity. But yeah, my name's Aubrey. I'm a staff attorney with Wild Montana. I am based in Billings, which is in the Yellowstone River Valley, also known as the Elk River to the Apsalake, the Crow people, of whom this is the traditional homelands. And I'm really grateful and humbled that I am part of a really long line of people who have loved and cared for the place now known as Montana. And I recognize that my ability to do so is the result of the forced and often violent removal of Indigenous peoples from this place. But really excited today to have Allison Golinsky from Rocky Mountain Wild join us to go over the oil and gas lease sale process and kind of help us figure out how to write really good comments that'll hopefully make a really big difference for public lands in Montana. So I'll go ahead and get started. Just going to kind of go over the basics of where we're at and why. And then I'll turn it over to Allison and she'll walk us through some of her really awesome tools and all of the great work that she does that helps a lot of us be able to engage with these lease sales at a really detailed level. And then I'll go through some of Wild Montana's tools and the resources that we've put together. And then we'll have plenty of time for question and answer at the end. Certainly feel free to drop questions, comments, whatever in the Q&A or the comment box. I'll field those and bring them up to Allison as we go through. If it's something we can answer right away, otherwise we'll hang on to it till the end. If you at the end, if you want to ask your question verbally, just go ahead and raise your hand using the raise hand function and I'll pop you off mute, or just, drop a comment if you can't figure out how to do that. I only recently learned how to raise my hand on Zoom, so no shame. Okay, awesome. So real quick, sort of where we're at and why we're here with oil and gas leasing. I'm sure folks remember, back at the beginning of this year, so, 11 months ago, one of the first things that President Biden did after his inauguration was issue an executive order pausing oil and gas leasing on public lands. This order did not affect existing leases or existing operations, but it simply said that the federal government was going to take a bit of a pause on issuing new leases while the Department of Interior did a review of the leasing system, which really hasn't seen any significant changes since 1987, and even the changes that were put in place in the 1980s really didn't go far enough to reform a system that's based on a law from 1920 when the world was very, very different. So that happened in January. A lot of folks were really, really excited about it. As you can imagine, it did not come without controversy. And so I'm sure folks also remember in June, a district court judge from Louisiana issued a ruling on a lawsuit that was brought by a contingency of states, including Montana. Montana's attorney general joined in on that suit, basically saying that the pause was illegal. So in June, that Louisiana district court judge issued an injunction on the pause. So that judge basically just said that the pause had to be put on pause while the rest of the legal issues were worked through. It was a really quite broad and kind of unclear ruling, but that put the Department of Interior and the Bureau of Land Management in the position of, having to comply with an order that said they could no longer pause leasing. So in August, the department announced that they would be going ahead with lease sales for the first quarter of 2022. And these processes, take some time. luckily we have some really good public comment opportunities, and those public comment opportunities have been strengthened by this administration. So on August 31st, the Bureau of Land Management sort of started its first phase of public engagement on these lease sales. And that first round is called scoping. That ended at the end of September. And then recently, the second round of public comment began on the environmental impact, or excuse me, the environmental assessments for the lease sales, including those in Montana. In Montana, we have a little over 6,000 acres that are proposed as, could be available for sale at that sale in February 2022. So where we're at right now, as we have until November 28th, and I actually just got confirmation from the BLM that they are in fact going to continue to accept comments through the 29th, November 29th, because of that Sunday. So November 29th, they're going to be accepting public comments on these proposed alternatives. And then in February 2022, the Bureau of Land Management will be holding a lease sale for any parcels that have not been deferred. So this really is the biggest, most important stage for the general public to weigh in. So we really appreciate you guys being here to learn a little bit more and learning how to write these comments that will really stick and really make a difference. So I am going to turn off my screen share and turn it over to Allison to walk us through the resources that she's put together. Rocky Mountain Wild is another really wonderful public lands nonprofit based in Denver. And one thing that I've always used of Rocky Mountain Wilds over the last couple of years is their oil and gas lease sale tracking system. So I'm really grateful for all of the work that Allison has done, over the past years, and I'm really glad that she's able to share it directly with you guys. So yeah, so I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen and just turn it over to her.
Thank you, Aubrey. I'm Allison Galinsky. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm joining from the Denver metro area, which is the ancestral homelands of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples, and has served as a gathering place for many indigenous people over time. Rocky Mountain Wild focuses on protecting biodiversity in the Rocky Mountain region. And one of the ways we've been doing that is tracking oil and gas development across the Rocky Mountain West for many years now. And encourage the general public to engage, because that is an opportunity to make a difference, especially under the current administration, which is looking for reasons not to offer everything to be leased that has been asked for. So let me start by showing a little information about how the oil and gas development and leasing process works. So if you were a person who wanted to make some money developing oil and gas, or maybe speculating on it, the first thing you need to do is get permission to develop in a specific area. Now, in some cases, you may own the land, but you may not own the minerals underneath, and that includes oil and natural gas. If the federal government owns it, then you need to get permission to develop it. Or you may want to develop on public lands that you don't own, and again, you need permission. And the way you get permission in those cases is by getting a lease, so like renting an apartment. And that is done through a public auction. And you start by um, telling the Bureau of Land Management, who manages this process, that you're interested. And this has been happening for a while during the pause. And so now the Bureau of Land Management has gathered together all of those parcels that people have expressed interest in. And back in August, they started the scoping process, where they determined whether or not the parcels met the regulations. And people submitted comments during the scoping period. And in Montana, no parcels were removed. However, the Bureau did recommend that some of the parcels be deferred, not be offered in the sale. However, they're analyzing either offering all the parcels that were recommended or deferring some and offering others. And right now, you are here at the environmental assessment phase, where they have done some analysis of what would happen if these parcels are leased. And the public has 30 days to comment on this assessment. And Rocky Mountain Wild supports that by providing some information on our webpage. Our webpage is rockymountainwild.org, O-R-G. And on our page, one of our programs is called the Oil and Gas Watch. And if you find that menu, then there are web pages for each of the states that we work on, including Montana. And that's the page I'm on here. There's also a page called the Oil and Gas Toolkit for Activists, which is here. And this has a number of documents, including the process for oil and gas leasing, which I just showed you. Another one is a document called Writing Comments That Stick. And this is a sort of a checklist, and this applies to oil and gas leasing. It applies to other processes on public land, such as a revision of a management plan or a specific agency. And so you can print this out and check off to make sure you're sending, doing the comments to the right place. Wild Montana has some tools to help you with that Aubrey's going to show. Make sure you get it in on time. Write it in your own words. When you just copy and paste stuff, then the agency can give less weight to each individual comment. Specifically on oil and gas leasing, need to be fairly specific about what is being offered. So let me go back to this web page where we have some maps. Now, my position at Rocky Mountain Wild is mapping position. I'm the principal conservation geographer. So this is my specialty, is maps. So if you like maps, you're in the right place. Each of our web pages for state has, as a central element, a map of what's coming on up. However, words are good too. And if you scroll down below the map, you can find out a lot of words about what's going on. What is the deadline? What are links to the pages that, to the web pages that describe the sale in more detail? What's being proposed to be offered? What conflicts did Rocky Mountain Wild find? We found conflicts with greater sage-grouse habitat. We found a parcel within 10 miles of a National Historic Site. We found conflicts with critical habitat for piping plover, which is an threatened species under the Endangered Species Act. And we found conflicts with big game. If you want to look at this yourself, there is, we provide data in Google Earth format and in GIS format. And I'm going to talk in specific about a spreadsheet that we create for each sale, talking about these conflicts, getting in more detail about the specific parcels. And one more thing in this sale, something that's a little new under the current administration, is they're proposing several alternatives, which is what they're supposed to do when they do an environmental assessment. And the one they seem to be leaning for proposes the deferral of 6 parcels in Montana. So let's go back up to the map and look at the parcels. Right now, Montana is big, so you're seeing Montana and you're seeing a bunch of Wyoming too. And on each of these maps, right now you're seeing the legend. There are other icons up here, other things you can do. And one of the important ones is called the layer list. This is where you can turn things on and off. Let's turn off everything that's not Montana for now. Okay, and now it's really hard to see what's even going on. So one thing we can do, there's this ... next to Montana. If you click on it, you can zoom to a layer. And now we can see where most of the parcels in Montana are down in this southeast corner. However, because it didn't just zoom into that area, we know that there's some other ones. Here's something in eastern Montana, and here's something fairly far northeast. And another thing you can do here is see some conflicts. So along with turning things on and off, there's little arrows by each of these things. For the lease sale parcels, it's just showing that the color is red. For conservation conflicts, we have different sub items. Can turn this on. It takes a moment to redraw. And now we see there's some different colors that have popped up. Can go back to the legend to see what's going on. So we have conservation conflicts. We have things within 10 miles of a National Park Service unit or national monument. And that's up here. And that is around some little teeny parcels that are hard to see. We have different regional conflicts. Most of these aren't showing up. And we have these shades of yellow and orange. And we finally found that under other species, greater sage grouse, general habitat management area, and priority habitat management area. Another way besides using the legend to see what's going on is to click on the map. So I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. This part works a lot like a Google map, where you can select with your mouse and you can move to specific places. You can go in or out. And now here we are in southeast Montana. And if I click on something, it gives you information about the parcel. And this is important because this is what you put into the comment that you write to say, I am concerned about parcel number. Well, you just say 251, that's probably enough. You can put in the full thing too. Now this pop-up here shows 1 of 2. So that means there's some other information about the place that I just clicked on. By clicking on this arrow, it says next feature. And it shows that this is within general habitat management area for greater sage grouse. Now, that are some of the basic things that are going on with this map. And again, it's important in order to see these conflicts, you have to go to the layer list and turn things on. And you can continue to drill down by opening things up, and you can see that most things are turned on. Native cutthroat trout habitat is not available for Montana, so I'm not going to look at that. You can also turn things off that are not of interest, and there's some other things here that you can play with. You know, me, I like playing with the maps, so you're welcome to do that. However, if you're not as much of a mapping person, or if you want to find out things about more than one parcel at a time, I really recommend that you go back down here and you download this spreadsheet that we call the ABBY screen. That's the Assessment of Biological Impact, something Rocky Mountain Wild came up with, not a acronym that the Bureau of Land Management is familiar with. And if you click on it, it's going to bring it up in a window here. This isn't the best way to work with it, so I would say go ahead and download this. You can say File, download as Excel, or back in that window, you can right click on it and click Save Link As. So now I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to bring this up in Excel format. And restart the share. And here is the spreadsheet. A little hard to read. Let me maybe make it a little bigger. We can zoom it to 200%. Okay. Now it's easier to read, but it's not showing a whole lot at once. What it is showing is right now it is sorted by the parcel ID. And we can see, you know, maybe you're familiar with the counties and you want to look at parcels in a specific county. You can scroll through here. And you can see there are a whole lot of these are in the Powder River County. The other thing, we can scroll to the right here and we can see that there's specific conflicts that are listed. We have conflict with critical habitat for piping plover for parcel 234 in Richland County. That one's also within 10 miles of a national park or national monument. We go a little further over, we can find out that it's the Fort Union Trading Post National Monument. Can also find out that we can go back. See, these are quite small parcels, 12 acres, 5 acres. The ones in Powder River County are bigger. And maybe what you want to do is focus on a specific place that you're familiar with. Like maybe you care about these ones in Richland County because that's along the river that you're familiar with. Then you having these sorted by parcel ID works. But maybe you're more interested in white-tailed deer or pronghorn antelope. In that case, I suggest you resort this spreadsheet. And in Excel, you do that by going to the data ribbon. And then you find sort of in the middle, it says sort. And then you can pick what you're sorting by. This already has some defaults, sorting by parcel ID. Going to get rid of that. Going to get rid of rank, field office, and I'm going to sort by species habitat value right here. And now you can get a list of all of the parcels that are in general habitat for what? For greater sagegrass. And now you could write a comment that lists all the parcels that are in general habitat for greater sagegrouse, or all the parcels that are in critical habitat for piping plover. So let's, and so on for the different species. Now I want to go back to the map and find out a little bit about what's going on with piping plover, because that is a species that is, if it has critical habitat, that means that it is threatened or endangered. First, before I do that, let me show you there's a little more information in this spreadsheet. Saying where the data came from, what is the species, what is its scientific name, it's a bird, and it has a status under the endangered species list. It is threatened. Great Lakes population is endangered. I don't think the Great Lakes is in Montana, so we'll go back. It also has some codes related to how the species has been ranked by an organization called NatureServe. These ranks go from 1 to 5, which 1 is the most rare, the most likely to go extinct, and 5 is the most common. In this, and it has a rank, global rank, and a Montana rank. There are also some ranks from Rocky Mountain Wild. Rocky Mountain Wild's ranks just go from A, B, or C. We consider, what is this again? This is piping plover is A ranked. We consider mule deer to be more common, to be C ranked. And one other thing you'll see here is we have value ranks. So again, piping plover is number 1. We believe, our biologists believe, that this is the most important to protect. But mule deer, even though they're fairly common, it's a 2 out of 3, because this is the winter distribution, and winter areas for big game have been shown to be impacted by oil and gas development. There was a big study done in Wyoming that showed that mule deers will avoid a place where oil and gas development is happening, even if there aren't any people around, even if it's been just sitting there chugging along producing oil and gas for years and years without any people there. They still avoid that area unless it's a really severe winter, which means that that's a place that they're not eating food in the winter, which can impact their survival. Okay, let me now exit out of this spreadsheet and go back to the map. I've got lots of windows here, so I need to find the right one. Okay, going back to the map, I wanted to find the information about piping plover. And that from the spreadsheet, if I was smart enough to have written it down or have it up in another window that you guys can't see, I know that piping plover is in Richland and Roosevelt counties. This map isn't showing the county names. But if I was familiar enough with Montana, I would know that that's up in this area. And as it redraws, you see some parcels here right along a major river. And again, we can click on a parcel. We get the parcel information about the parcel itself. And we also get that it's within 10 miles of the Fort Union trading post. And wait, there was a number 3. Taking a while to come up. That's this little circle going around and around. So that's number 2. Number 3, it's critical habitat for piping plover. Okay, let me tell you one more thing that's specific to this sale. Let me X out of that and go back down here. Down here at the end of the bullet list for the environmental assessment, it says the environmental assessment also includes an alternative proposing the deferral of 6 parcels. And because they're within or adjacent to a migratory corridor for pronghorn. Tells you a little bit about where they are, and it provides information about them. Have not had a chance to put these parcels onto the map. However, let's go down there, down here by the Powder River. So they're going to be, let me pull out a little further. Okay, so they are, it said they're east of the Little Powder River. Oh, let's turn off these conflicts. So it's these parcels here. If you wanted to really be sure you had all the parcels, there's a way to do it, even though they're not on the map. And that is go ahead and download this Google Earth KMZ. So right click on it, save link as, make sure you know where it is. Then you can go back up here and you have the ability to add layers to this map, add data to the map. That's this plus sign thing here. And we want to add a file. And we could browse or we could drag and drop. I have the file handy. You can't see, but I have my file explorer up and I have the Google Earth file and I've dragged it over here. Oops, nope, not supported. Okay, well, I also have the zip shape file that is supported, and now it's gone ahead and zoomed in. Again, I can go back to the legend, and these are the proposed deferral parcels. And because we don't know what pressure the Bureau of Land Management is getting, I suggest that one of the things you may want to do is to say that you support deferring parcels in migratory corridors for pronghorn. And you can find out what the parcel numbers are by clicking on them. And again, it talked down here about a migratory corridor for pronghorn. Do you have experience with pronghorn? Are they important to you for some reason? If so, put that in your comment. Make it personal. And that is most of what I wanted to cover One final thing, a little bit of a secret, is if you click on this right up here on the menu where it says oil and gas watch, not any of the sub items, you will get to a page with more information on oil and gas development. And this includes a map that shows all the currently authorized oil and gas leases. So you can see where in Montana there are currently oil and gas leasing. Whole lot up here in sort of east central Montana going into North Dakota. This data is provided by the Bureau of Land Management. The way they set it up is if you go out too far, it doesn't show up anymore. No, yep, it eventually disappears. So if you want to find out, is there anything going on in, more central Montana, you have to scroll to that area and then go in, maybe even a little more, and then be patient while it shows up. And yeah, I'm not patient enough. So it hasn't shown up yet. Here's some stuff. Boy, this is a weird place. So what does this color mean? We have red that's held by production. That's not applicable. These are probably not in production. Again, I can click on it. It's authorized as of 1985. And if you do some research, you'll find out that a whole lot of these are sort of on hold because of some weird process having to do with the National Forest. But if you go back east and you're patient, you'll see that a whole lot of these will come up as red as being actually producing. And at that, I'm going to stop my share and turn it back to Aubrey to tell you a little bit more about how to do comments on this sale.
Awesome. Thank you. I don't think I can over exaggerate how helpful these GIS maps have been over the years. And especially, this year with this lease sale that kind of got, I think fair to say, got sprung on us. Again, the BLM wasn't anticipating doing these sales. And so none of us were expecting to have to dive back into lease sale comments in 2021. So really appreciate Allison and Rocky Mountain Wild's ability to turn this over really quick. So yeah, I just wanted to go over a couple of resources that Wild Montana has put together, including our commenting portal. So I'll go ahead and share my screen again. Okay. Excellent. So yeah, we already went through Rocky Mountain Wild's conservation conflicts map. So if folks are here, you've clearly already read our emails and kind of know what's going on. But wanted to make sure folks know that we do have a blog up on our website. You can get to it through one of the emails that you've clearly already gotten. It kind of covers what the three basic alternatives that the BLM is considering right now. Also links to a couple different resources. This link right here goes to a really important report that the Bureau of Land Management recently put out, sort of covering greenhouse gas emissions. This sort of analysis has never been done before. And so it is, really monumental and really important that the BLM is acknowledging and is, seriously considering the greenhouse gas emissions that come from oil and gas development on public lands, and frankly really acknowledges the fact that the point of leasing is development. That is not something that we've actually seen the BLM consider in the past. So yeah, so this report is really important. It is over 100 pages and it can be quite technical. So I encourage folks to read it, but also understand it's very long. And there are some other great summaries of it. But yeah, so this is our website. Again, there's a couple other links here. So this one, specific parcels, I basically just made a very, very, very basic version of Allison's way more technical spreadsheet that is linked in our blog, that just very, very basically lays out, each of these parcel numbers, if they are proposed to be deferred or not in alternative C, and sort of what those major conservation conflicts are that are identified in Allison's map. So that's linked on our blog. You can find that pretty easily. Another thing that's also linked on our blog and very similar to one of the resources that Allison shared earlier is our document tips for writing public comments. You'll see a lot of similarities because I took quite a bit of inspiration from Rocky Mountain Wild's document. But as Allison said, these sorts of directions can be really, really helpful regardless of the public comment that you're writing. So yeah, definitely feel free to keep this up or print it off as you're writing a comment for this or any other administrative process that you engage with. And then moving on, so I do want to show the maps that the BLM has put together. I will be sure to email this out to folks after the webinar. But these are the maps that the BLM has provided as part of their analysis that identifies the conservation conflicts, mostly down in the southeast corner of the state, because that is a pretty productive area for big game and particularly pronghorn. So again, I'll email these out so you don't have to navigate the BLM's, frankly, really difficult website. So just basic summary. So these parcels up here are the ones that the BLM is proposing to defer or could be deferred if they go with alternative C, which is really important because there is this migratory corridor that basically runs sort of right in between the parcels for pronghorn. One of the concerns that we have, though, is that these parcels down here south of Broadus, these are not proposed to be deferred, even though they also sit within pronghorn winter range. And so if we're following, the basic sort of analysis that the BLM has put forward, if it's important to defer parcels that impact pronghorn, these guys down here, also should be deferred. So again, I'll provide the link to this map so you can cruise through it a little bit more. If you are a hunter, it would probably be really helpful to check out FWP's website. And, if you don't know hunting districts off the top of your head, like I don't, you can go through and check out hunting districts. So say, for example, pronghorn antelope, you can look at the different districts. Oh, I pulled that up wrong, but it's easy to do, to look at the different districts. And so if you've pulled a tag for the district down there in Southeast Montana and have, specific experience hunting there, that would be super important. I will provide the link where you can pull up the hunting districts. So the last thing that I wanted to show and make sure folks are comfortable with is the comment portal that Wild Montana has set up. So this comment portal is available in those emails that you've received. It's also linked on the blog. And again, this is something else that I'll email when we're done. So this comment portal is going to walk you through step by step how to write a comment, and then we package it all together and it gets sent right to the BLM, so you don't have to worry about that after you've completed it. But the idea is to sort of like walk you through how to write and how to submit a comment. As Allison said, the more specific you can be, the better. But as we, point out in the tips, you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a scientist. You don't have to be a GIS expert to provide some really helpful comments. So I would recommend, having having either Allison's spreadsheet pulled up or that really basic spreadsheet that I made pulled up with the parcel numbers, so that you can, kind of reference those numbers as you go. So you just click get started, enter your first name. It may, if you have that information kind of saved, like if you've entered a comment with us before, that information will probably be linked, like mine is. And you can sign up for, keep getting emails, kind of walk through these steps. So then, yeah, first step, just enter your name. I would recommend doing this in a bit more detail than what I'm going to show here. But then, yeah, it's always nice to just be polite and thank the BLM for the work that they've done. They are real people and they have worked hard on this. So definitely give them a little bit of props. And then, like I've indicated, Wild Montana, supports alternative A with no leasing. But as laid out in our blog, there are some really strong things that the BLM can and should do under alternative C if they do move forward with leasing parcels in Montana. So then this is where you would put some of those specific things about, like I've, hunted down here and, harvested, a number of animals. It's really important that those parcels are deferred. Again, be a little more detailed than I'm being right now. I apologize, some of these got cut off, but refer back to our blog for some of the other things that we're suggesting. So increase royalty rates, etc. And then again, always think with a little bit of politeness. That does go a long way. And then finally, you will have an opportunity to review your comment. I really recommend doing that so that you can, fill in anything that got cut off or didn't end up the way that you wanted it to be said. And again, once you hit send email, that'll go right to the BLM. So hopefully that makes it super easy for folks to submit a comment. Like I said at the beginning, the BLM's comment deadline is November 28th because that is a Sunday. They have extended the comment deadline sort of unofficially through the 29th. But for me, I'm going to do my best to get my comments in before I head out for Thanksgiving. Of course, let me know if you have any questions, concerns, or problems using any of these resources. So with that, just want to open it up for questions. Again, feel free to drop those in the chat or under Q&A, or go ahead and raise your hand and we'll pop people off of mute. And please send out my email address too when you follow up. And all these resources I've created are designed for a whole range of people, including lawyers who are writing very detailed comments and the general public. And because of that, it's pretty complex. And I'm really happy to sit down with people and help them figure out more information about how to use it. You would not be alone if you reached out to me. And I really appreciate finding out people who use the stuff I create. And thanks for taking your lunch hour to listen to us on this rather wonky topic, but really important because oil and gas development is contributing to climate change in a pretty major way. Yeah, one thing I will reiterate that Allison kind of demonstrated on that Rocky Mountain Wild's map. Definitely be patient for layers to load. I am the most impatient person. But there is so much good information on those maps with all that GIS data that don't be surprised if you have to wait, 10 seconds for something to load, which I always need to remind myself. But yeah, definitely take advantage of those different layers, all that different information. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So again, just be patient when you use it. It's not broken. You're not doing anything wrong. There's just a lot of good information.
So there's a question about, is this being recorded? Looks like it's being recorded. How are you going to share it?
Yes, thanks for that question, Mary. We are recording this. We will send it out to everybody who registered for this webinar. So even those folks who registered but weren't able to join us, we'll have this for reference. And if for some reason you're not able to access it, just let me know, and I'll be sure to get you another link or another way to access the recording. But yeah, you'll be able to review this for a little while. Okay, Mark, thanks for your question. How would you suggest phrasing comments about climate change concerns rather than concerns more specific to individual parcels? Or should we only make comments that are more place-based, live in Northwest Montana, and have little experience with the lands where leases are proposed? That's a really good question. Again, you don't have to be an expert. I will say I have really relied on, partners specifically at the Wilderness Society who have done a really, really wonderful job, kind of parsing out the specifics about climate change. I think one thing that's really important to note is that in the environmental assessment itself, it recognizes that under alternative C, where those couple of parcels would be deferred, that cuts the potential emissions from this proposed sale by half, which is huge. But obviously, half means that there's still a bunch of emissions that are possible. And another big way that would be, sort of lessened would be to also defer that other chunk of parcels down by the Wyoming border. I will note that there are parcels included in this sale that are over in North Dakota. Obviously, Wild Montana is not an organization that can speak for North Dakota. But the biggest acreage of parcels in this sale are in Montana. So, recognizing the link between leasing and development, and recognizing the opportunity to defer essentially 100% of the emissions associated with this sale by deferring those additional parcels down by the border is huge. Mark, I can follow up with some additional resources about climate change and maybe some other more helpful technical language too. Yeah, again, I've really relied on folks at the Wilderness Society for their help with that, and I'd be happy to pass on the good work that they do. I'm always happy to uplift partners and all of the good things that they bring to this work. So yeah, thanks for that question.
And just one other comment, even if you're not familiar with a specific area, if you're familiar with the animal that is being impacted, if you're familiar with pronghorn, if you're a bird watcher and piping plover is important to you, maybe you haven't seen it yet, but it's on your list, that's another angle you can use. Even if you're not familiar with the place, you can talk about the importance of the species, the animal, or that would be impacted.
Yeah, all right. Well, we are officially at the top of the hour. But again, I'll follow up with resources. And thank you guys again so much for being here. We do really appreciate it. You know, with these, obviously this lease sale is part of a bigger national sale, but the more specific, or I guess the what am I trying to say? You know, these local decisions, though, they do really matter. And so having really good comments goes a lot farther than having a bunch of mediocre comments. So I really appreciate you folks for taking the time to help us write some really good comments, because that will mean a lot to the state office that's based here in Billings. So again, feel free to reach out to me or Allison anytime, really through the 28th, hopefully before, so we're not you know, button up against the holiday. But again, I'll share resources and I'll share Allison's contact information as well. So thank you guys all so much for joining us, and I hope you all have a great rest of your afternoon. Thanks again, Allison.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Goodbye.
everybody. Bye-bye.